Welcome in, everybody. This is Biscuits and SEC Live. This is show 93. Yes, Rick, we were eating biscuits. Finishing up
Always.
dinner there. Good to see you, Rick. As always, Mike Hughesman joining in with us as well. Everybody, good to see you tonight. We got a lot to get to. It's going to be a lot of fun. Light the beacons. We are here. Should be a ton of fun here on a Wednesday night, July 8th. We've got SEC Media Days right around the corner. We had Big 12 Media Days kicked off, I think it was yesterday, and we're getting some good sound bites and quotes out of that. So we'll touch on that a little bit too before we get to our Biscuit Index trademark ratings for Alabama and for the Missouri Tigers tonight. So Rick, our friend, Captain Biscuit, we will get to your Crimson Tide later in the show. But first, as everybody knows, as always, for those of you who love watching Biscuits and SEC, you know this, but biscuitsandsec.com/newsletter, the Morning Biscuits newsletter. We're about to get into our season cadence here, coming up fairly soon, not too long. We'll be going to Monday and Friday, but for now, we're on Wednesdays during the off season. So everything you want to know about what's going on in the SEC keeps you up to date on all that is happening around the best conference in America, as well as what's going on around the country. So be sure to go to biscuitsandsec.com/newsletter to sign up for the free Morning Biscuits newsletter. And also be sure to subscribe on YouTube. Check us out. Follow us on X, on Instagram, and now we're TikTokers. So check us out on TikTok as well. We're having a lot of fun over there as we gear up for the season. And as always, everybody, we are presented by the Steer Agency. Be sure to go check those guys out for all your digital marketing needs. Hammer, what is going on in your world? How are you?
I'm doing great. Our friend Mike brings up a good point, but I'm just sitting here drinking a Monster, as one does. Pumped about the sponsorship that was announced at Big 12 Media Days. So, but no, doing great. Excited to get into Mizzou and Alabama tonight in the continuation of our Biscuit Index series, leading us into the season. We're not that far away, man. When the clock strikes, basically when it's the 4th of July, when the 4th of July rolls around and you get into kind of the dog days of summer, it's like, dude, media days and fall camp are right around the corner. And, you're in the single digits of how many weeks are left before college football kicks off. Week 0, is like just over a month. So I'm feeling great. I'm excited, and I'm ready to get into this show tonight.
I feel like the off season is like a roller coaster, and you're just kind of like going up slowly up the hill. And then once you reach July 4th, it's time to get on the boat. It's time to hit the slip and slide, time to hit the pool. That's when you're starting to tip over the edge to go downhill and barrel race towards the season. So, the media days as well, also a marker. Big 12 Media Days, SEC Media Days is coming up at the end of the month. So not next week, but the week after, from the 20th to the 23rd in Tampa. But we got a little bit of fodder from Big 12 Media Days. So let's start there. The Monster Big 12 Media Days. So talk to me a little bit about any of the storylines that came out of the Big 12 Media Days that you're interested in and want to touch on.
So I do think the Monster Energy one is probably the biggest story that's come out. Forgive me, Big 12 fans, if I'm missing something big. But aside from the jokes, of course, Monster Energy, everybody named Kyle is now a Big 12 fan, whatever the memes that have come out have. I think it's interesting. I've seen a lot of people speculating that the number is low at $20 million per year, split across 16 schools. I would agree with that, but I guess withholding judgment because we haven't seen another conference's deal, right? So this is kind of the, market setter, so to speak. Could be a good thing or a bad thing for other conferences, right? That this could be used as a bargaining chip on either side of the negotiating table, whether you are looking to sponsor a conference or you are a conference seeking sponsorship. But I just think it's fascinating to see what that was valued at. Again, I think $20 million per year is probably low, but I'm not a marketing guru from Monster, and those guys, frankly, do a great job of marketing. Doesn't really, hit me personally or my demographic, but Monster Energy sells a lot of energy drinks, and so they know what they're doing. So I was curious to see, or was very interested to see that's what the value was for the Big 12. And like I said, now what does that mean for other conferences? We'll see. Because it could turn out that the Big 12 got totally fleeced and way undervalued even their own product, or that might be what brands are willing to pay. I really don't know.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I mean, I get we have to find all these sources of revenue and we got to pay all the players and that's where everything's going. I did see a couple people point out that I will not be calling the Big 12 the Monster Big 12, and which is technically, I think, what it is going to be called now. And you will not find me call it the Monster Big 12 ever either. So it's going to be weird if there's other conferences. Rick points out here, he says the SEC's is RC Cola and Moon Pies. Yeah. So, if it's the Moon Pies SEC, or the Golden Flakes SEC or whatever, I'm not calling it that ever. I don't think anybody is, but I do understand that these conferences have to find these sources of revenue. I do think that we're inching towards idiocracy and it just having all of these different sponsors. You got two sponsors in the front and then presented by two sponsors in the back, for every conference, for every game, all this stuff. So we're kind of reaching levels of absurdity here, but it is interesting, and this is the way it's going to go.
Yeah. The only other thing I think for media days that I was even remotely interested in was the Texas Tech stuff, and we've of course talked about that really at length on this show in the past few weeks. If you're interested in what we think about it, it's all over our YouTube channel. You can go find it. But was just curious to see what Joey McGuire said. He didn't say a whole lot. I think the only thing that I found interesting, we included this tidbit in the newsletter this morning, but that he was surprised at the reaction and surprised that, athletic directors and administrators, not so much coaches. I don't think he even said some coaches were kind of checking in on him / Sorsby, which doesn't surprise me at all, given that, tight-knit fraternity. And he's been in the game a long time, especially in the state of Texas. So I'm not surprised. And by all accounts is a great guy. So I'm not surprised that people were in the profession were on his side. But I am very surprised that he didn't expect that reaction from school administrators who don't think like a coach, don't know him from Adam, and are looking at this black and white from the outside looking in going, you cannot be serious. I'm going to speak out against this because it's unbelievable. I think you put it well in the newsletter where you said that does he have the PR brain of an ant? Because how could you not foresee this reaction coming? But he didn't, apparently, and he seemed earnest about it. So I thought that was a little interesting, but otherwise not a whole lot going on.
Yeah, that was also something I wanted to touch on, other than the fact that all of the players were wearing their pads in interviews, which I know
love
you
that.
and I both found that pretty funny. I will say that Andy Staples and Ari Wasserman did an interview, and I forget which player it was, but the player was in pads, and we commented on it, and they responded to us and said that they had the players do, I think, Fox and ESPN promos, shooting those right before they went in to do interviews. So that is why they were all Andy Staples replied and told us this. He said they were all in it because of that. It was not like a mandate from the Big 12 or the schools that you're going to be in full pads. But even still, it kind of looked ridiculous. So other than that, though, yeah, it's the Joey McGuire stuff. And that's what I said in the newsletter. I added to what you put in there, which is, does he have the PR brain and the self-awareness of an ant? How did you not see this coming? Because it was obvious that this was going to be the reaction. This is the one cardinal sin, as we've mentioned many times. You can't do this, right? Every sport forever has said this is the line you don't cross, since Shoeless Joe Jackson way back in 1918 or whatever. So to think that this was not going to be the reaction. I mean, the entirety of college football, aside from the people in Lubbock, Texas, and Red Raiders around the country, were against this vehemently and angry about it. So if the entire country, other than those fans that are on your side and always going to be on your side no matter what, are against you, how can you not take a step back right before you make this decision and say, we know this is going to be bad and we're just going to have to go through it? Instead, he's like, oh, I was surprised at the reaction. What are you talking about, man? No, it's the one cardinal rule. Everybody's saying, no, you can't cross it. They've always said that. Of course, this was going to be the reaction. So I found that to be, maybe he's just like, I'm just an old football coach, man. I don't know. And I like Joey McGuire. Like you said, I have a lot of respect for the guy. I think he's a good coach. I like him as a person. I'd love to go have a beer with the guy. But come on, man. You got to be kidding me. This was obvious from all sides that this was not going to go well for you guys. And if that was the decision you made, knowing full well that, like, walking into this is going to be, we're going to be walking into a bear trap, through rose thorns and all sorts of craziness. Well, fine. But to go in there blind thinking this is like, yeah, we might have some blowback. No, it was the entire country. So I found that to be either disingenuous or a little bit ridiculous to think that was really what he thought.
Yeah, that's fair. I just, you referencing Shoeless Joe Jackson, somebody needs to make an AI video of Cody Campbell as Kevin Costner. And Cody Campbell's out there getting whispers, if you build it, they will come. And he builds a giant football field in the middle of West Texas. And Brendan Sorsby comes out of the, oil rigs from the other side of the field to play football one more time after he got banned from gambling. So any creatives out there, just credit me whenever you steal that idea and have Cody Campbell and Joey McGuire building a football field and Brendan Sorsby coming out of the corn.
All right. Well, I might know a guy who can do that. So let's talk off air. Maybe I can figure that one out. All right. I think that is enough on Monster Big 12 Media Days. We will get to SEC Media Days here in a couple weeks, which we'll touch on as we continue through our Biscuit Index ratings. So tonight we got Alabama and Missouri. I think we get right to them. This is going to be the bulk of our show tonight and then over the next couple weeks as we get through the rest of these teams. To remind everybody, if you have not seen these before, the Biscuit Index, it's something we've done every single year. It used to be called the 14 and 14s when we had 14 teams in the SEC. Then it was the 16 and 16. And now we've changed it over to the Biscuit Index. I think that's a more apt name for it. And it was supposed to be 16 weeks that we were going to do 16 teams. Now we're stuffing it into 8 and putting it on the podcast. So now the Biscuit Index, we go through everything. We take a holistic look at all of these programs. Not just kind of like, hey, what are we looking at this season? What is this? What is that? No, we're looking at everything from the administration to facilities, NIL backing, last 5 seasons. How have they looked over the last 5 seasons? The trend, coaching staff, recruiting, and portal, all these different things, the roster construction. And then we take a look back at the previous year, look forward to the year ahead, and then talk about how they can earn some biscuits. And the biscuit rating here, we give them as out of 12. So 1 through 6, 1 is obviously the absolute worst. You were a perennial bottom tier team. Civil War hardtack, ain't nobody want to eat that. Then getting up to 6 there, looking right, a little bit bland. Maybe there's a little bit of hope. And then you got 7 through 12. 7, you're ascending, showing a little bit of promise, like a Wendy's biscuit. And then 12, you're a powerhouse. That's a perennial national title contender. If you caught our Biscuit Index rating on Georgia, that was a 12. Might be the only 12 in the SEC this season. We shall see about that. But Hammer, all right. Let's start it off right here with Mizzou. I want to hear your Mizzou Biscuit Index rating, and then we can go through the entire thing. So without further ado, Mizzou
Biscuit rating of 8.
Bam.
Give me that. So, yeah, Mizzou gets an 8 for me. to spell that out according to the algorithms and proprietary methods, that is defined as nipping at the heels of the elite. McDonald's did a damn good job this morning. So we're talking, McDonald's sausage, egg, and cheese, maybe even a McGriddle. Good stuff. Not the best in the world, but very good. And I kind of struggled with this one a little bit, because I wanted to give them their flowers without kind of overdoing it, So 9 Biscuits says they're a dark horse to win the conference, which I need to see that before I can actually get there with Mizzou. But then it felt like 7 and 6 were really just disrespectful. So I kind of settled in there on 8 because they've been darn good. Again, do I think they're like a conference title contender? Probably not. Even their best year in the last handful of years, they did not go to Atlanta, despite winning 10 games in the regular season, 11, including the bowl win over Ohio State. But here's just a little bit of a rundown, of what they've got going on. All right, so nipping at the heels of the elite, their blue chip ratio only at 30%, which I do think is a little bit of a, again, a red flag for maybe them having more biscuits or being a dark horse. But their recent results kind of speak for themselves. 11-2, 6-2 in the SEC 2 years ago, or I guess 3 now. 3 years ago. 2024, they go 9-3 in the regular season, win the bowl game. So back-to-back double-digit win seasons for Drink. 8-5 last year with a 4-4 mark in the SEC. And then even taking this back to the 5-year time frame, they went 6-7 in 21 and 6-7 in 22. So a little bit of a slower start to the Drink tenure, but they've kind of figured it out, I think. Recruiting probably about as good as you could do at Missouri. It's not, again, it's not elite, but obviously it's good enough to win games. And I think most people would agree, at least according to what the experts say their talent level is, they are overpunching, outpunching their weight class in terms of results on the field. So their average over the last 5 years recruiting wise is 21 and a half. So 21, 22. Their portal is similar. Yeah, get that graphic up there. So, they're about 20th in the country, which seems very much right for probably how good this team has been over the last, 3 to 5 years. SEC average of 10, but again, they're outpunching that. I mean, they were probably 10th best last year, and it was kind of a down year. And to give them credit for last year, they really went downhill when Pribula went down, right? Leading into his injury, they were looking pretty good. Now, Mizzou haters out there would say, and this is true, so it's a fair criticism, they would say, well, the Pribula injury coincided with Mizzou's schedule taking a step up down the stretch in the SEC. And again, that's true. But before he went down, they were 6-1 with their only loss being a 3-point loss to Alabama. So this was a good team last year that didn't have a good backup quarterback. And even, Pribula, when he was in there, wasn't great. I think that was probably their weakness, was the downfield passing game. But I love what Drink is doing. He certainly got interest from other programs this offseason, but remains committed to Mizzou, signs an extension, and seems like he'll be there for a while. And I think he's the type of guy who, as long as he's there, they are going to be feisty. And, 8 wins at this point kind of feels like 7 to 8 wins feels like a kind of season for them. Like almost you expect it at this point, and anything above that is great. But below that, you're almost surprised. So what do you think? Is 8 fair for Mizzou here?
Yeah, I was going to say before you go on to the rest of it and start, going through our facilities administration and kind of dive in a little, a couple rungs deeper. I'm totally with you on 8. When I saw your rating before we got onto the show, we don't know these until right before the show. I mean, we can see them, but I don't look until probably for 8 hours until showtime. So I kind of was like, oh, that's interesting. Like I could see it, but I'm not sure if I would get them, like put them that high. I don't know where I'd put them. Maybe I'd put them at 6 or 7. I don't know. But then, reading again what the 8 means, and then where the last 5 finishes, right? Just thinking back quickly, the first 2 years of Drink, he's having trouble getting over the 500 hump. And then boom, 11-2, beat Ohio State in the bowl game. Then you go 10-3, and then you're down to 8-4. And I do think that a lot of it is on that Pribula injury that happened last year. And sure, they took a step up in their schedule and everything. But in the last 3 seasons, I think Drink has really kind of arrived at Missouri. And it's like, no, these guys aren't going to be pushovers. Okay, this is not an easy win. They're going to fight tooth and nail. And this is a team that can win double-digit games if they have a couple things go their way, during the season. And so to me, 8 Biscuits really is like the model of consistency. You started out by talking about a McDonald's biscuit, the McGriddles maybe, right? Is there anything more consistent than a McDonald's biscuit or a McDonald's McGriddle? No. Is it the best ever? No. But is it really good? And is it consistent? Do you know what you're going to get pretty much every season? Every time you go to McDonald's drive-through? Yeah. So I think 8 is spot on, and you really can't put them below that, right? Because 7 on our scale is ascending. They're ascending. Mizzou's not really ascending. They've kind of arrived at that tier right above ascending, and they're kind of hanging out right below the elites. And if they punch a little bit harder, they're right there knocking on that ceiling. And I think that they will be with Drink for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, look, just selfishly here, looking at the teams that I have done so far in our Biscuit Index, and it's Kentucky and Auburn, who, at least in the case of Auburn, look at Mizzou and think we're a better program than them, or should be at least. But both of those programs over the last 5 years, really certainly since Drink has gotten there, would look at Mizzou's results and say, man, I wish we had this. Like, I wish we were winning as consistently as Missouri is. So yeah, I think Missouri, as you said, they're really not ascending. They're kind of arrived. I think with Drink, like, they're going to be good every year, and they're not going to be a pushover. He's proven that he can recruit with, some of the guys. Luther Burden comes to mind, but just some of the recruits that they've landed. And he's proven he can use the transfer portal with, a guy like Pribula, or how about Ahmad Hardy? He pulls out of, I think, UL Monroe, and he leads the SEC in rushing. So Drink knows how to use the portal. He can find diamonds in the rough. At the same time, he can swing with the big dogs. So again, to land somebody like Luther Burden, or I know he transferred away. I can't even remember his name anymore, but he was the defensive end that they got, who was a big 5-star kid who's now in Nebraska, I believe.
Wilson, Damon Wilson.
You're thinking of Wilson, who they got from Georgia, who was another one, though. That's another.
Oh, you're right.
They can take big swings.
Yeah.
Yes, but still, and he had a great season last year, right? You pick up a 5-star who's transferring out of Georgia, and he's extremely productive, has 9 sacks, and takes a fat payday from Miami. So it's kind of the game.
Williams Nwaneri. I can't say his name. Williams Nwaneri. Yeah, that's the one.
Nwaneri or whatever. So anyway, Drink has shown both in the portal and on the recruiting trail, he can take big swings, and he can also find guys who are going to be that kind of diamond in the rough. And I think at a place like Missouri, that is the tight rope that you have to walk. Because to lead into our next segment, like, Missouri is not, even within the conference, going to be, at least kind of money investment wise, at the very tippy top. So you have to be able to operate within those confines and be successful. And Drink has shown that to be the case. So in terms of, their structure, their stadium, facilities, investment, it's very good. So I don't want to come across like, Missouri doesn't have money or they don't spend it. They're happy to spend it. I just think, again, relative to some other programs out there in the SEC, it's probably not at the top, but they're investing heavily in facilities. So in 2023, they completed the Stevens indoor facility. That was a $33 million project for an indoor practice facility. So they've got that done in the rear view. And as we all know, if you watch SEC football, their stadium has been under construction. That is slated to be done in time for this year. They said it may not be done by kickoff, how construction goes, but fall of 2026, it's expected to be done. So the Memorial Stadium Centennial Project, $250 million project. A few of the notable amenities that they've added. It's like 160,000 square foot of new space. That includes a lot of premium seating areas. Unsurprisingly, we're kind of seeing that in college football, as we discussed. Need a way to increase revenue. It's a lot easier to increase revenue with some boxes than just some GA seats. So they've got 14. These are actually going to be cool. 14 field level suites. So think of what Jerry Jones did at AT&T Stadium, where you have the field level suites. Mm-hmm. I don't know of any other college programs that have that. I'm sure they exist, but just top of my head, I couldn't think of one. Yeah. So that's super cool. Really cool. Again, kind of innovative. So good stuff, Mizzou. So they've got 14 field level suites coming in, a couple new club sections, and a 300 person Rock M club that's built underneath the historic Rock M of the north end zone. So in total, 71 new suites they're putting in. And the new capacity will be right at 65,000. So they're really not losing any capacity. In fact, I think they added a couple thousand seats. So really, again, good on them. They've recently invested in their practice facilities, and they're putting $250 million into the stadium, and it should be done, and it should be cool. So again, they don't have a 100,000 seat stadium. It's one of the smaller in the SEC, but it's great. It's a good stadium, and they're investing to improve on it. Elsewhere, they got a new AD, and I say new, but he's been there since 2024, Laird Veach. And they actually don't have a general manager, interestingly enough. I think Drink kind of handles most of that. So they have a director of football strategy and finance. Last name is Verma. First name is Garov or something. Apologies, Mr. Verna. But that been in the role for a couple of years, but it does seem like Drink handles a lot of the personnel stuff. So a little bit of a different structure, but seemingly got good things going there. On the NIL side, I think this really probably with the Luther Burden and Nawari stuff is when this kind of first came onto the scene. But Missouri, the state of Missouri, was one of those states early on that tweaked their state laws to allow the NIL collective to receive institutional funding and assist in negotiation. Essentially, they are kind of able to let school resources go towards player acquisition. And I believe that includes kind of signing guys to NIL deals before they actually are on campus, right? So if you get a guy to recruit or commit, I think they can begin that process. So that's been helpful to them. They a few actual quotes I saw from the AD on some of this stuff is first he said that just candidly that Missouri is not able to, quote, spend at the very top of the food chain, but can absolutely spend enough to be competitive at the highest level. No lie spotted there. Certainly, if your AD is saying that, it's reality. And again, I think Drink is kind of the perfect guy for that system. At least he's shown to be. But in 2024, 2025, before that.
One other thing to mention, though, on that is, Kurt Cignetti just did it at Indiana with a roster that wasn't even close to some of the highest paid rosters in the game. So, it is in the SEC. It's tough. We can argue whether it's tough or not. We obviously here at Biscuits and SEC believe it's tougher in the SEC to get out of than it is in the Big Ten. But you just watch Cignetti go all the way, wall to wall, undefeated national champs with a roster that I'd have to look back, but I think it was probably in the middle, maybe in the upper tier, but in the middle to upper tier, but not in the top 10, I don't think, in terms of roster and the money that they paid at Indiana. And I know they have money, but just look down the roster. I don't think that they were one of the top spenders in college football last year by any means. And so it's out there. If you are spending at a level to be competitive, and then you've got a talent evaluator like a Drinkwitz, you can give yourself a shot in this new era of college football. So you don't have to be the New York Yankees, the Ohio States of the world, the Alabamas, Texas A&Ms, Texas, LSUs, who are spending all this gobs of money. You can still do it as long as you're spending at a rate that keeps you competitive, and you've got somebody who can find those diamonds in the rough and evaluate talent well. And Drinkwitz is one of those guys who can do it.
Yeah. If Austin Simmons pans out, they've got a good chance.
Right.
So anyway, they similar to a lot of the schools, right? Again, in terms of structure, they had a collective, Every True Tiger, that has evolved into Every True Tiger Brands. It's similar to kind of what we've been talking about. It's like a donor run or transition from a donor run organization to an independent agency style body that connects athletes to corporate sponsorship, manages the group licensing opportunities. So, a lot of sort of big business terms, but basically the entity is more or less in-house now. It's not a standalone collective. They kind of work amongst the university in some capacity. And again, I think do a good job. I think Mizzou has done a very good job on the NIL front. Just basically because, you look at their roster, guys they get in the portal, guys they recruit, they do pretty well. So I don't think there's, a lack of money there. That's pretty much it. Just in terms of actual money, I did see this. Mizzou spent a total of $31 million in NIL payments in 24-25 prior to the House settlement. And, reportedly at least 2/3 of that went for football. So again, you're looking at a $20 million roster pre-House settlement. So what it is now, maybe they're up at 40. I don't know, but they're shelling out some good money. Again, it's not a $40 million roster like LSU or Ohio State or whoever, but they're not lacking either. They're not rolling out, a $10 to $12 million roster and hoping it works out. They're investing.
Yeah. That seems like it's right in the wheelhouse of what the AD said, which is that should keep you competitive, which by the results in the last couple of years, it certainly has.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to kind of roster construction and, what went right, what went wrong, what they need. Roster construction, man, it's interesting again, looking at this, so the first two that I did, of course, Auburn and Kentucky have new coaches. So the turnover was extremely high on both of those schools. And you get to Missouri and turnover's pretty darn high again, because that's just the world we live in these days. So Mizzou has where is it at? I thought I had it here. Oh, it's here somewhere. Anyway, they like all these added. Oh, here we go. 62% of the roster is new via the portal or incoming freshmen. They brought in 30 transfers and had 26 guys hit the road. So again, a lot of turnover here. Returning production, not great. It's at 49%, which is 76th in the country. They have about 10 returning starters from last year. 3 of which are on the offensive line. So I do think you look at what they did last year in the run game. Ahmad Hardy will get to, prayers up. Hopefully he's healthy. But with 3 guys coming back and as dominant as that run game was, I think that lends itself well for what they could do, this year. Beyond that, I mean, look, they've obviously Austin Simmons is a big transfer to watch. Caden Lee coming over from Ole Miss had a solid season a year ago. He was a 4-star out of the portal. They got a couple of 4-stars from Auburn. Robert Woodyard, a linebacker. Kinsley Louisdor-Faston, a cornerback. Picked up another cornerback from Michigan, a 4-star Elijah Dotson. And then some of the guys they lost, Damon Wilson and what was his name? The other edge, he was all SEC. I can't remember his name now that I'm looking at it, but
NFL or did he transfer?
He went to the NFL. Yep, and he was an all SEC guy a year ago. So anyway, they lost some guys at edge with that guy going pro and Damon Wilson, but they bring in
Zion Young.
Zion Young, correct. I think you pronounce this guy's name Cameron Morgan, a 4-star edge from Baylor. Kamauryn. I think that's Cameron.
Sure.
In some languages. I don't know how you get there, but I think that so they're trying to backfill. And again, I kind of trust Drink here. So, roster wise, like could be good, but a lot of unknowns. Thinking back to last year, and like I said, so they kind of run that pro style spread with a pretty heavy emphasis on the run game. Interested to see how Austin Simmons factors into that because Pribula was a pretty big threat with his legs. But also they're bringing in Chip Lindsey at OC because Kirby Moore took Washington State head coaching job. So multi-year OC Kirby Moore, who did a very good job there, is gone. Chip Lindsey takes his place. So, we'll see exactly what he does or how he tweaks that offense. But again, I think, like, as I said in the Biscuit meter, like, I don't necessarily think they're ascending, but I think they've arrived. Like, I would be shocked if a lot of these guys, don't kind of pan out and they're a very good team again. And inside the SEC, that means, hey, maybe you win a couple one-score games and you get to 10 wins, or you lose a couple one-score games and you peter out at 6 or 7. We'll see. But Chip Lindsey, of course, has been around for a long time. He came over from Michigan. He was the QB coach there in OC last year. He's been at Carolina, UCF, Auburn. He's been all over. Southern Miss. So well-established coach and has been in the SEC. What I'm very curious to see about this year's team is how the defense does. Because thinking about what went right in 25, it was really the defense. As much as I'm kind of praising Drink, Kirby Moore, Pribula, Ahmad Hardy, the offense, the defense was really nasty. Again, they've done a great job with that defense there for years. Corey Batoon, the defensive coordinator, is back. He's been there several years now, but they ranked 17th nationally in points per game, only giving up 18.9. So they had a stout defense. I already mentioned a couple edge rushers that were all SEC. So they really got after you. The offense was a little more average, but still pretty good. Average 30 points a game, 44 in the country. And again, a lot of that went downhill after Pribula went down, right? I mean, we saw Zollers down the stretch, and he just didn't have it.
Yeah, he's okay.
Right. So, it's kind of hard to look at that without a little bit of an asterisk. But again, you're averaging 30 points a game, 44th in the country, and your running back, your tailback, Ahmad Hardy, leads the SEC in rushing. So they had a lot that went right last year. It just ultimately, came up short in a couple games and lost their quarterback. As Aggies, we lost our quarterback like 4 years in a row, and I can tell you from experience, it's very hard to win a lot of games if your quarterback misses, significant time. So a lot went right for them last year, and they still only, finished there at 8-5. What went wrong? Again, I'm harping on it, but the Pribula injury was very costly. Missouri was 6-1, only loss was a 3-point loss to Bama up at that point. After the injury, of course, they go 2-3. So that just really hurt them. And their passing game was lacking. If you're going to point to one thing, even pre-Pribula going down, they could not stretch the field vertically. Pribula was not accurate. They didn't really have the receivers. They really, really missed, of course, Luther Burden and Theo Weiss and guys, that could get downfield and get open and make plays one-on-one. Again, they were phenomenal on the ground. Pribula was a big threat with his legs and ran the offense very well. But they just did not have much of a passing game. And even before, he went down, that really reared its head against Alabama when I don't remember the exact scenario, but he threw a couple late picks, because they kind of needed to throw the ball. And he didn't quite have that, which probably is why they courted Austin Simmons in the portal, despite the fact that I think Pribula did a pretty darn good job there. And I think most Mizzou fans would agree. I think there was a next kind of level that Drink and his staff were hoping, and that just never really materialized. So a lot went good. Not that much went wrong. What they need in 26, as I kind of said, man, it's a lot of turnover on that roster. So how does it pan out? I mentioned a bunch of those 4-star transfers that they need to pan out. And then really beyond that, I think it's, well, of course, Ahmad Hardy's health. Again, hopefully he's going to be healthy at least at some point. We'll hear more during SEC Media Days, I would imagine. But I think that offensive line is going to be good. I think they're going to be able to run the ball, even if Hardy isn't there. Their backup last year had like 700 yards rushing. I'm forgetting his name, but he was no slouch at all, and ran the ball extremely well. So I think they're going to run the ball well. I think Simmons will have a decent amount of time to throw. They need especially those two cornerbacks to pan out so that they can cover. That hurt them last year. And then they really need the wide receiver transfers to pan out. Obviously, Caden Lee is kind of the main known commodity in that group, but of course they brought in several other ones, so they need those guys to pan out. And then if that happens, again, they could be very dangerous. I trust Drink to have them prepared. They're going to be in a lot of games, and as we know, close games in the SEC are just life. And so if you win them, you look really great. If you lose them, your fan base is ticked. But I expect Mizzou to be in a lot of really close games. This is a good call out by our friend Mike. Garrett Riley, new addition to the staff. He's the QB coach. He'll be working under Lindsey. I agree. I don't know what went on at Clemson, but I think Drink is probably, especially for an offensive coach, Drink is a much better head coach to work underneath than Dabo. I don't think Drink is as rigid. I think Drink is open-minded. I think he welcomes new voices in the room to some degree. So I think that could be a good pickup, especially without any real pressure, as he's no longer, the OC, the play caller. So he can kind of work in the background and get his feet back underneath him. And I think he can help. So, you look at their schedule. Obviously, it's not easy, right? A lot of these SEC games are toss-ups. At Kansas, similar to last year, like you just have to have it, especially going to 9 SEC games. Like there's just a non-negotiable. If you lose to Kansas, your biscuit rating's going down because you just can't do it, and the rest of the season looks pretty bleak. But again, there are also winnable games here, right? Like Texas A&M at home, they could win that. Florida at home, darn near will be favored, if not outright favored. At Mississippi State, tough environment, they could win that. Like there's a real chance they're starting 4-5, God forbid 6-0. At Ole Miss, I don't think that's unwinnable. At Arkansas, they ought to win that one. First Texas, tough, but they get them at home. At Georgia, good luck, but Mizzou's played them tough. Against Kentucky, they ought to win that one. And then against Oklahoma, they get a lot of these teams at home. So it could happen. Very difficult schedule, but not the worst one I've seen, especially, again, getting some of those teams at home. So I think Mizzou, I like where they're at, and I like where they could be this year after looking into it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Again, model of consistency here under drink over the last couple of years. This is their biscuit rating. Biscuit Index rating. Missouri Tigers for 2026 is 8 biscuits, and I think that's spot on. I think I'm with you too in what they need. Got to probably win 9 games if you're going to get one extra biscuit, or at least be considered for an extra biscuit. And anything other than that, we're probably talking 10 wins, either get into the college football playoff or be the first team out kind of thing in order to get to 9 or 10. So I'll say this too. Last year, I think I'm the one who wrote the Mizzou 16 and 16, the Biscuit Index of last year. And we had them at 9 on the Biscuit Index rating. So took a step back at 8 and 4, but not far. Again, still pretty consistent. Got to give them kind of a bit of a mulligan for the Pribula stuff. But they've got a real good shot to have another good season. And at this point, man, you kind of just have to sit back. I do think that the Missouri program, in a lot of ways, they're one of those programs that a lot of programs are like this, but I think it really matters at a program like Missouri, where you need a coach to get you up a level, right? You need to punch above your weight at a place like Missouri. And so you really need a coach who you can trust, who you believe in, who is solid, and who fits the place and knows what you need to do to win at a place like Missouri. And Eli Drinkwitz fits that, right? You had Barry Odom before him. He was kind of the in-between from Pinkel. And then, Pinkel knew it. He did it for 20 years. And then you had Barry Odom, who had hot start and then crashed, and obviously didn't really understand what it was going to take to win at Missouri, even though he was an alumni. And then you get to Drink, and Drink has it figured out, right? So I think as long as they got Drink there, this is where they're going to be at. They're going to be between 7 and 9 biscuits and have a shot to jump up and really, make some noise every so often.
Yeah, I think so. Look, if they win 9 games and Simmons comes back, I think they're certainly in the running for another biscuit. And if they win 10 games and the roster explodes and it's a restart, I still think they're getting an extra biscuit. So yeah, give me 9 or 10 wins, either sneak into the CFP or nip it on the heels, and be around in the conversation for the SEC title race late in the year, and absolutely they could earn multiple more biscuits.
Yep. At the end of it, I think this can all be summed up for Mizzou and trust Drink. At this point, just got to trust the man. So that was rock solid for the Mizzou Tigers. Great work, Hammer, on that one. Let's rock and roll. We're going to go way over here tonight on some free football here for y'all at Biscuits SEC, which we love to do for you guys. But we're definitely going over tonight because we got one that is very intriguing now with Alabama. And you would think, obviously, they're in the elite. They're going to be a 12 biscuit, an 11 biscuit, typically, etc. Well, I don't know if I'd put them that high. So here we go. Drum roll for me. $10 biscuits for the Alabama Crimson Tide. And that means they're top tier and they're feeling good. It won't take much to win an SEC division title or the whole conference. It's Chick-fil-A. It's Saturday, and the minis are popping. So I don't really know if you could say feeling good. I think there's cautious optimism, but I don't think that Alabama fans are feeling good at 10 biscuits. And the reason I say that is because this is a program that under Nick Saban won 6 national titles, and they expect to be in the college football playoff. They expect to be in the national title game. They expect to be pumping out titles constantly. They expect to be, top 3 recruiting class every year, all that sort of stuff. And over the first couple of years of Kalen DeBoer, there's just been it's been a little wobbly. It's been good, for most programs would be like, we'll take that every year. Whatever he's doing over there, I'll take that every year. But this is Alabama. This is Bear Bryant. This is Nick Saban. This is Gene Stallings, right? All these guys who have added championships to the trophy case, and they want Kalen DeBoer to be that guy. And they've seen some things that they don't really like so far. But when you look at the results, all right, look at the last 3 years here. 12-2, 9-0, and 23. That was Nick Saban's final year. Then you've got the first 2 years here of Kalen DeBoer. 9-4, 5-3. 9-4 ain't going to cut it. That's what everybody started freaking out after year one. Oh my gosh, does this guy have it? What are we doing? This is Alabama. 9-4 does not cut it. And then last year he goes 11-4, 8-2, makes the SEC championship, finishes first in the SEC in the regular season, makes the college football playoff, and wins a playoff game. Goes to Oklahoma, wins a playoff game. But then they run into an absolute freight train and just get run over on the train tracks by eventual national champion Indiana. I think 38-3 was the final score of that game. It was so bad I turned it off early in the third quarter, and I think a lot of Alabama fans did as well. But they're right there. All right, look down here at the bottom. Blue chip ratio, 64%. Again, 50% is the threshold. If you are over 50%, that is where you're in the green to be a national title contender. Alabama is safely in that zone. Number 9 overall in the country, number 5 in the SEC in the blue chip ratio. That for sure can win you a national title. So their last couple of years, you get a step up again. DeBoer makes the playoff. You get one playoff win. A little bit of shakiness. You don't like some of maybe the mentality of the team. You think they're a little soft or whatever. But they won 11 games last year. You got a ton of talent on the roster, recruiting at an extremely high level, 2, 3. So, look, they're still elite. They're right there, okay? And I think you got to dock them a little bit because of this Alabama, and it's been a little shaky. You get absolutely crushed in the playoff by Indiana. You should never get beat that bad ever, but especially by a team like Indiana, who is just, until the last 2 years, the worst college football program in history. So there's a lot of hope here, though, and that's why they still get 10 biscuits, because of that blue chip ratio. And but I will say this, so some of my lead points here to make tonight, they have a great blue chip ratio. There's a lot of blue chip talent still on this roster, 64%, like I mentioned. But this roster is low on experience. They lost a lot. They don't have a lot of returning starters. In fact, they're 90th overall in returning production. You mentioned Mizzou earlier, I think was 76th. Alabama's 90th overall in returning production. 48% of the roster is returning production. Most of that returning production is over on defense, which I'll get into a little bit later, particularly in the secondary. But other than that, I'm looking through these position groups as I'm going through, and I'm like, a lot of talent, could be great. Question mark. I don't know. I got to see it. Question mark. So there is a lot of optimism. There's a lot of hope. This could be a really good team, but a lot of newness, a lot of turnover, a lot of things are changing, which could be interesting because I really think that this is a pivotal year for Kalen DeBoer. And one of the reasons I say that is because obviously, Tide fans are getting a little bit squirrely, a little bit squeamish, like, all right, now he's got a 7-year contract that they just gave to him for $12.5 million annually per year. So Greg Byrne is all in. He thinks Kalen DeBoer is the guy. I think most people do. I think he's a great coach. Give him some time. I think he's going to get it right. But Tide fans are, kind of a little bit, hey, I need to see it. And I haven't seen it just yet that this is the guy to lead us back to the promised land. You also got to look at their recruiting class. All right. 2027 is ranked number 50 currently, according to 247. So I don't know exactly what's going on there. And I think maybe, there's time. There's plenty of time. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see if it works, Rick. It's a big gamble right now. I just showed it, right? 2.33. Okay, those have been the last 3 recruiting classes for Alabama. So recruited very well at a high clip. But I don't exactly know what's going on here. All right. And I don't know if it's time to hit the panic button just yet, but we're not far from it. 50 for Alabama at this point. Maybe we're going to, go portal heavy next year, and that's the plan. I don't know, but it's a little bit concerning when you're looking at that and you're looking at a bunch of other SEC teams that are way above you. Yeah. So I don't know, just a little in a pivotal year for Kalen DeBoer with that in the background, kind of interesting. That's kind of the route he's going, or maybe I know they're still in the running for a ton of these big recruits who have not yet committed. So you got to land some, right? You got to land some for sure. So, all right, I'll start running through it here. Last 5 seasons, right? I went through the last 3 seasons, but 2021 they're 13-2, number 2 in the country is what they finished the AP poll, first in the SEC West. Win the SEC championship over Georgia, and then they lose the Natty to Georgia 33-18. And then in 2022, this was Bryce Young's final season. They go 11-2, 6-2 in the SEC, finish number 5 in the country, 2nd in the SEC West, and then they whip Kansas State in the Sugar Bowl 45-20. I believe they lose the SEC champion. No, they were 2nd in the SEC West. It was LSU. LSU went to the SEC title game that year. That was Brian Kelly's first year. Right. And they lost in overtime in Death Valley, which is why they did not go to the SEC title game that year, and why they didn't get into the playoff. So 2023, this is Nick Saban's final season. Lose to Michigan 27-20 in OT, and then Nick Saban says, all right, curtains, call it a career. It's been a good one. Jalen Milroe's second year, Kalen DeBoer's first year, 2024. They go 9-4. They go 5-3. 17th in the country is what they finish. I think the last time they finished outside of the top 10 was like 2011. No, 2009. 2008. Nick Saban's first year. Nick Saban's first year was 2008, I believe. 2007. So maybe 2008 or 2007 was the last time they finished outside the top 10. It's been a very long time. So that is why the alarm bells were going off in Tuscaloosa after 2024, because you had Jalen Milroe coming back. You had a lot of talent on that roster. They did have a lot of exodus through the portal after Nick Saban left. So don't forget that. But then 2025, Kalen DeBoer rights the ship a little bit more. Also, you had that loss to Vandy in 2024. There was definitely some reason to be worried. Yes. Now, you right the ship a little bit more. You get back to double-digit wins. You finish number 9 in the country in the AP poll, 4th in the SEC overall in 2025. But losing the quarterfinals to Indiana, losing the SEC title game, and you lose to the eventual national champion. So I don't know how much you can, it is what it is, right? Look, ran into a buzzsaw there. But again, just some worrisome things like what you're seeing with like the offensive line. All right. Lots of issues along the offensive line that I'll get into here in just a minute. You got some real serious drop issues with Ryan Coleman Williams, who had a fantastic year his freshman year, and then all of a sudden he's got the yips. So a lot of things you're not loving. What you're seeing, I guess, just in terms of the mentality. Seems like a little bit of the Alabama mystique is like kind of starting to fade here a little bit, even though they won 11 games. So going into the administration here in the facilities, and let's dive deep here into some of the background stuff. Yeah. First year for the Alabama president, I talked last week. I'm trying to remember who it was. Did you go to Georgia? Who was my team last week? I can't remember. Anyway, the Alabama president
you
had for a while.
Yeah, you had Georgia last week.
So I think it was the Georgia president. So the Alabama president.
Georgia was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but whoever I had, I can't remember. Whatever. Not important.
No.
The Alabama president had gone to a new school. So he took like a year off, and then he eventually ended up at a new school. I can't remember if it was Georgia or whoever I had last week. Whatever. Um, Florida. That's where he went. He went to Florida. Oh, did we lose Hammer? Oh, no, he hit the wrong thing. There, he's back. Florida is who I had. No, now he's – so he's got to go get a dog or something. So Alabama's president, this is his first year. Basically, we're coming up on 1 year right now. July 21st, 2026 will be mark 1 year for him as president. That's Dr. Peter J. Mueller. He's got an incredibly impressive resume. He was at Ohio State for like 15 years and super, super smart guy. So comes with a great pedigree, comes with a lot of a great background. I think he's going to be good, but he's only been in the job for a year. But you do have the continuity with the athletic director in Greg Byrne. Been there for 9 years, been there since 2017, made the Kalen DeBoer hire, made the Nate Oates hire. He's done very well, in his role. So Alabama fans, I think, for the most part, have a good opinion of him. And then general manager is Courtney Morgan. He's in his third season under DeBoer. He was actually DeBoer's first hire at Alabama. And he's one of the highest paid GMs in the country. He's making $1.2 million a year at Alabama under DeBoer. And then obviously you got Kalen DeBoer there as the head man. 7-year extension is what he signed, as I mentioned earlier, for $12.5 million annually. So Alabama's all in on Kalen DeBoer. And that is what Greg Byrne has been saying. There you go. And so we'll see. I'd say this is a pivotal year. I still think it's a pivotal year, but we'll see what happens. He's got 7 years, and I think he's going to get most of that. So, all right, diving in here to the facilities. Bryant-Denny Stadium, originally just Denny Stadium, opened in 1929. It's had 9 expansions or renovations since 1929. Most recently, they've had in 2010, they expanded the south end zone. That's where we got up to the 101,000 capacity. That was a $65 billion renovation. And then now we're in a phase of these planned and ongoing renovations, some of which are already done, some of which you've seen, including like the Walk of Champions, some of the locker rooms, some of the facilities. They say it on YouTube. You can go watch some of these tours of the facilities that they've done. Pretty impressive. $300 million that they put into the different facilities around Bryant-Denny that players will walk you through. It's incredibly impressive. It's beautiful. They've got everything you could ever want, in terms of a football facility for Alabama. So those facilities, some of these different planned things that they've got going on are part of a 10-year, $600 million fundraising campaign that Greg Byrne and the athletic department launched in 2018. So we're coming up now. We've got about 2 years left on that 10-year fundraising campaign. I think they've done a great job of it. If they're putting $300 million in already and they've completed a lot of these different projects, I think the fundraising is going pretty well.
Investment, buy-in, fundraising, I don't think is ever going to be an issue at Alabama for football.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There is the talk that they aren't ever going to have as much money as the Texases of the world, maybe Texas A&M, so Ohio State, some of those schools. But I mean, and that's some of the rumor of why Nick Saban left, is because he saw the writing on the wall in terms of NIL. But I'm with you. I don't think that Alabama is ever going to have a big issue fundraising for football. So also added those LED lights in 2019, I believe it was, which has made the atmosphere at Bryant-Denny awesome. I mean, any of these schools that have added the LED lights, it has increased the atmosphere 10x, I would say, just for the different things that they can do when the team scores a touchdown, or when they play Dixieland Delight and the whole crowd's going nuts and you've got the crimson LED lights. The whole place looks incredible. So that is a must-have if your team has not put in these LED lights yet. So, all right, NIL investment. I'll go through this quickly. It's Alabama, for those who don't know. they've done a great job. I think that it's one of the better NIL collectives out there. Although, interestingly enough, they don't really call themselves an NIL collective anymore. I think this one also is transition. Originally, also, Alabama was the official. It was through the athletic department. And now I believe it's independent. If you go to Alabama's website now, it says independent. So all this is sand beneath our feet right now, as we've mentioned in a couple of these before. But all these things are starting to change. Alabama is still there. It's a membership fee. It's more of like a fan-centered thing, and it helps also power their NIL as well. So in 25, according to the NIL standard, 6th in the SEC in terms of their roster, around roughly 29.2 million. And these are obviously rough estimates. We don't exactly know how much each team spent, but this is just kind of guessing based on what each player might have a worth on the open market. So 29.2 million, that was 6th in the SEC. One thing to note on this, though, that was within 1 to 2 million of the next like 3 schools above them. So they are right in the thick of all of it, can compete with all those teams, $1 to $2 million off from, the next 3, which are going to get you up to number 3 or 4 in the SEC. You're right there. You should be competing with all those teams. So Alabama not hurting for money, doing well in the NIL game, and paying their roster as much as you would hope to be competing for national titles. So no excuses. Kind of, I think, also what the Alabama fan base is saying. No excuses. This is Alabama.
Yeah.
So,
but like you said, hey, they're 10 biscuits. Like, things are okay.
It's just different. It is. It's the Alabama standard, right? Like the Alabama standard, it is just different than everybody else. You've got 10 biscuits, and yet you're also feeling like, cautiously optimistic. We got a good team, but I don't know about this DeBoer guy. That's just how it goes. That's how it is at Alabama. That's how it is at Tuscaloosa. Okay, going through the coaching staff here, I'll go through this quickly. DeBoer going into year 3, wins 11 games last year. He's a really good coach. He's a really good coach. Michigan's after him, right? If Alabama doesn't want him, somebody else is going to
supposedly. Penn State. Everybody's after him, apparently.
Everybody's after him, right? Maybe that might have been an agent, but I don't think so. I think that most of those teams would 100% go after Kalen DeBoer and would love to have him as their coach.
Yeah.
So Ryan Grubb also kind of on shaky ground here with Alabama Crimson Tide fans. He's coming into year 2 with Kalen DeBoer because he was with the Seahawks. He went to the Seahawks for 1 year before coming down to Tuscaloosa. And then Kane Womack, the DC. He's done a fantastic job. He's crushing it. The defense is not really the problem. There's a couple things you can clean up. The defense, for the most part, has been pretty daggum good under Kane Womack.
Unless they're playing Tommy Castellanos.
Yeah, right. There's things you can clean up, and there's kind of these like gaping like, what the hell was that? Whether it was FSU last year or Vanderbilt the year before. That's kind of the big – it's like these big – it's not like we lost by 1 score, right, or we lost by a last-second field goal to Georgia or to this team or to, LSU or Texas A&M or whatever. No, it's like, what do you mean we lost to Vanderbilt, right? What are you talking about? Like we lost the game you just mentioned. Why is it's escaping me? FSU. Why are we losing?
FSU,
that's crazy. Yeah. So it's these like gaping, like really big things. What in the world? What is happening? And I think that's why, there's kind of some consternation in Tuscaloosa, even though you got 10 biscuits. So we can go through more of the coaching staff at another point. But in the interest of time here, I've mentioned the recruiting as well. They're still crushing in recruiting, but you got to worry a little bit about the 2027 recruiting class at 50. I don't know what's going on there. I can't tell you, Tide fans, if you know what's going on, if you got more, you're more in the know than me, let me know in the comments.
Mike has, I guess Gary DeBoer said that. I don't know. I still say bold strategy. But there's other ways to do it. I mean, you can totally backfill from the portal next year, and nobody, is any worse off than they would have been. But I still think there's a lot of merit to recruiting out of high school.
Yes, and I think that we're seeing that with these top programs that I like things are starting to balance out. It's starting to come out in the wash after a couple of years of NIL and people figuring out their strategies and how they want to construct their roster. And I think we're starting to see these teams are really, okay, we're going to focus heavy on high school recruiting, and then we're going to backfill through the portal for the most part. Now, there's others that don't. Look at LSU. Look at Lane Kiffin. But most, I think, are 60-40, let's say.
Well, and I'll just use a cautionary tale here. Certainly, you could point to Indiana having just won the national title. Most of that roster was transfers, if not, over the course of time, they transferred in and weren't out of high school. However, there's a lot of things about Indiana that nobody has ever been able to really do other than them up to this point. But the cautionary tale I will spin you is Hugh Freeze and Auburn. They kept thinking, we'll get a quarterback out of the portal. And I don't know what happened. I don't know what went wrong, but that did not pan out for them. They got a quarterback, 2 quarterbacks out of the portal in 3 years, and didn't work. And everybody kind of always thought that that's what they would do. Oh, he'll get a good quarterback out of the portal, because a lot of teams do, but it doesn't always work that way. And so it's one of those things, especially as, like you said, as we're kind of figuring this out, revenue sharing, like, I don't know what's going to go on with the transfer stuff, but I do think these collectives, at least, and the revenue sharing stuff, like, these schools are pushing back. We're seeing guys get sued. How that is working out behind the scenes is hard to know officially, but I have a suspicion that a lot of these guys, if you're transferring, you're giving up that money, which is fine, depending on how much you're getting at the next place. But I do think we're seeing it a little bit come back to level where, that you're going to have, 25 to 30 guys transfer, but not 25 to 30 guys that you're paying significant money to. The guys that are making big money, I think in a lot of cases, are unlikely to leave unless they get thrown a bigger bag. And, if they do, you get your money back. So I think kind of getting your claws into those kids, to use a terrible, analogy, because it sounds predatory in some way, but just to get them on campus and get them paid.
Yeah.
I think there's some merit to that, because you just don't know. Yeah, you assume the portal will be filled with a lot of good players. It probably will, but maybe you're banking on a quarterback or a left tackle that you really need, and you don't get one. Then what do you do? Well, you were going to wish you had somebody on the roster that you recruited out of high school is what's going to happen.
Yep, for sure. So let's move on to what's going on in 2026 here. Let's get to the roster a little bit. It's going to go back to what I said at the outset here. One of my top lines, which is there's a lot of talent on this roster, but there's a lot of question marks because it's a lot of turnover and not a whole lot of experience, at least returning experience, right? Again, I think it was 90th in the country and 48% returning production. So lost a lot of production here for the Tide. So offensive line, this is one of the things that has to get better. It was not good last year. They could not run the freaking ball. And that's one of the things that Alabama fans have been pointing to. Like, this is not Alabama football. Alabama football, we run the ball down people's throats. We take their will and we stomp on them. And we boa constrictor them. That's what we did all the time under Nick Saban. We had a running back like, Derrick Henry or, just a clone. Just go down the list of all Eddie Lacy, just boom, boom, boom. It just bam, 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 bam. All these Alabama running backs that were just unbelievable. TJ Yeldon, just name them all.
Yeah.
And you have had the talent in the running back room for the last couple of years under Kalen DeBoer, even with Jalen Milroe at quarterback running the football, extremely gifted with his legs. But they have not been able to run the football. And one of the big reasons for that has been the offensive line. The offensive line has been not to Alabama standard at all in the last couple of years. And one of the things to mention with that is The Tide averaged just 1.6 yards per carry before contact last season, which is terrible. That is not what you typically see from Tide teams. You see big holes. You see they're getting to level 2 before they're getting any contact. So they had one of the worst stuff rates in the country last year as well. What are we doing? And then not only that, so the run game was not good either, or the run game was not good, but the pass protection really wasn't that great either. Ty Simpson, there was 183 QB pressures last season. That was last in the SEC. I think it was last in the country. Yeah. It was terrible. Ty Simpson was under a lot of pressure constantly. He's getting hit a lot. 32 sacks this line gave up.
Yeah.
So the offensive line has got to get better. They're kind of starting from scratch here, though, which makes it interesting. It's like, okay, well, the line wasn't that good. You lost 2 to the NFL, 2 good ones to the NFL, and then everybody else is gone. And so you're returning one starter, your right guard, Michael Carroll, who's coming back. The line overall, very inexperienced with what you're going to be working with. And I know I've read run blocking is going to be a focal point. That was a focal point in the offseason. We got to get better. So, yes, I agree with that. But also we got to be good in pass pro. Keelan Russell, he might be your starting quarterback. Well, he's completely inexperienced. Austin Mack has only a couple throws under his belt, in D1. So whoever it is, you're going to have to be good in pass pro too. So the offensive line, as it is with most teams, but especially for the Tide this year, is going to be a focal point of this team and really a hinge point. If the offensive line is good, so goes this team. You're going to have time. You're going to be able to let that talent, cultivate and develop. If it's not good, Keelan Russell may be running for his life, and they may not be able to run the ball anyway. And if they're not able to run the ball, what's the point, man? It's going to be the same old story as the last couple of years. So we'll see how that one turns out. At QB, just mentioned him, Keelan Russell, extraordinarily talented. Again, tons of talent on the roster. Keelan Russell, very talented. Austin Mack, very talented. Most people at this point seem to be giving it to Keelan Russell, I think just because he's got a higher ceiling. But Austin Mack is a great option as well. He's got a lot of talent. He's a former 4-star, followed DeBoer from Washington. And they got a couple other younger kids on the roster as well who they're going to start working on and develop. But Keelan Russell seems like he's probably going to be the guy. Wide receivers. Look, you got some young talent as well, but super inexperienced, except for Ryan Coleman-Williams. And you're worried about him a little bit. Yeah. He's got to have a bounce-back year. Is he going to be able to have a bounce-back year with a new quarterback and somebody who's inexperienced under center? I don't know. We'll see. But other than that, it's a bunch of young guys. You lost Isaiah Horton to Texas A&M. That was unfortunate. Jeremy Bernard to the NFL. So, again, a lot of newness there. A lot of talent, a lot of newness. Running backs, Jan Miller, gone to the NFL. Daniel Hill, likely to be the bell cow. 74 carries last year, 284 yards, 6 TDs, former 4-star. Kevin Riley, also in the room, 2 starts last season. He's expected to get some touches as well. A.K. Deere, redshirt freshman. He's got home run hitter potential. And then you've got E.J. Crowell, freshman, former 5-star recruit. He's expected to be a stud, also got home run hitter potential. So we'll see how many touches he gets this year. If he's that good, he'll crack the lineup. We'll see. So really all of it, every single position group on the offense, I wrote this. The top line, talented, unproven. So we'll see. Yeah. Are Grubb and DeBoer able to develop them to get them to where they need to be in 26? Big question mark.
Yeah. I think on the Grubb side, on the offense, I mean, of course, they need some things to go right, of course. And I don't really know how it got as bad as it did, maybe, especially on the offensive line last year. But I think Grubb did a pretty good job. I still think he's a good coach. I think what happened last year, look, it was his first year. He didn't really have a whole lot of hand in the actual personnel that they had. And I mean, it's hard to run an offense when your offensive line was as bad as that one was, and you had no run game, and everybody you went up against knew you had no run game. So, yes, the results were not good at times. I do think if they can figure out the offensive line piece, I think Bama fans will be very happy with the result, right? If you can get that at least to a serviceable middle of the SEC kind of level, I think Grubb can do some stuff with Mac or Russell, whoever wins the job. Like I think he can. I just think last year it was a big challenge because couldn't run. And I mean, their running game was Jeremy Bernard off jet sweeps. Like it was, it was crazy. So I think he's still got something if they can figure out the O-line.
And quick aside on that, they fired their offensive line coach from last season, Chris Kapilovich, and then they hired Adrian Clem as their new offensive line coach. Last year he was an analyst at USC, but has experience as an offensive line coach, I believe. So they're going to be counting on him to really cultivate this line and bring these guys along very quickly because, again, inexperience, transfers, all this stuff, one returning starter, always, especially here at Biscuits and SEC, offensive line is a focal point, always telling you, like, offensive line matters and seniority and continuity on an offensive line matters, and that's not what you got in Tuscaloosa. So could be an uphill battle for Adrian Clem in his first year as the offensive line coach in Tuscaloosa. All right, let's move to the defense here real quick. So Kane Womack here in year number 3. What's he working with on the defensive line? Man, it's kind of a broken record here, but we're replacing a lot of production. DeBoer talked about it. He's really excited about the talent and the depth and especially their size right now on the defensive line. They're returning their sack leader, Janze Pierre. I can't say his name. I'm sorry. Janze Pierre Jr., who's the Wolf. I love the names in Kane Womack's defense, man. It's like, what is it? Wolf and I got to find it again. It was so good. Husky, Wolf are the two main ones. And there's one too that's like a rover, but you guys will have to help me if you guys are more versed in it. But, reading through it and remembering how he runs his defense, it's Husky and Wolf are the two crazy ones that I can remember. But anyway, the Wolf, Janze Pierre Jr., he's had 8 sacks last year along the defensive line, but they're losing 3 starters along the defensive line. And they brought in a transfer from Oregon, I believe it was. Yes, Oregon, Devin Tompkins, who is a senior. And he had 4.5 tackles for loss last year at Oregon, 4.5 sacks. So pretty good production at Oregon. You'll expect him to have a really good season this year as well. But again, look, can be excited about it, replacing a lot of production. Linebackers, pretty good experience here. You did lose Deontay Lawson, who's your number 1 tackler. So you're going to have to replace a lot of production. Again, replace a lot of production. Talented, replace a lot of production. Red Lawson comes back, and so does Caleb Woodson is coming from Virginia Tech, but he started last year at Virginia Tech. So he had 57 tackles last season, but he didn't have any sacks. So a lot of experience there at linebacker, but you're losing a lot of production. So secondary, this is the best group on the team. This team is strength plus. Loaded, returning Keon Sabb, Bray Hubbard, and Xavier Brown. And you also have at the 1 cornerback spot, Dijon Lee, who had 5 starts last year, who's coming back as well. So the secondary is loaded. It should be the group that leads this team, but you shouldn't really have to worry. As long as no injuries, this is the unit on Alabama that's going to be very good this year. All right, moving here now to finish us up. What went wrong in 25? What went right in 25? And then what the Tide need in 26? And then we'll take a peek at their schedule and talk about how they can earn some extra biscuits. So what went right in 2025? Got back to the college football playoff. Got to the SEC title game. Finished number 1 in the regular season in the SEC after the FSU loss to start the year, where everybody's freaking out like, oh my gosh, this team's going to be the worst thing we've ever seen. Ty Simpson is terrible, yada, yada, yada. No, I think there's a lot to be said for Kalen DeBoer and how he righted the ship after that loss early on. And it didn't end how you wanted it to. When you lose the SEC title game, it doesn't end how you want it to in the playoff by getting absolutely steamrolled by Indiana. But this team still won 11 games, and they went to the playoff, and they won a playoff game on the road, mind you, against a pretty good Oklahoma team who won double-digit games as well. So can take that from 2025 that this team took a step up from where they were at 9-4 in 2024 in DeBoer's first season. I think they felt better at quarterback with Ty Simpson throughout the year, even though he was under pressure a lot. He made a lot of good decisions for the most part. And I think it was more of what Kalen DeBoer wanted in a quarterback from what he didn't get with Jalen Milroe, where he kind of had to try to fit a square peg in a round hole with Jalen Milroe, and it just never really worked, despite his talent. So also on the defensive side of the ball, top 3 in total defense in the SEC. Gave up 19 points a game. Mentioned it at the outset, Kane Womack is coaching his tail off on defense. The guy's still doing a pretty damn good job when it comes to coaching the defensive side of the ball for the Tide. So you can expect more of that, I think, this year. Again, those safeties, really solid position group. And it kind of like Drink, you were talking about with Mizzou. At this point, I think Tide fans can sit back and say, trust Kane Womack, man. I trust him. The other side of the ball, I don't know. But that side of the ball, I trust that the defense is going to be pretty daggum good. 2025, what went wrong? Offensive line issues. I talked about that. Yeah. I think so goes the offensive line. So went Alabama last year. They had problems in the run game. They could not run the freaking ball. They couldn't open up lanes, and they didn't do very well in pass pro.
Caden Proctor was too busy playing wide receiver to block.
Sure. Well, he was about the only one that did block last year. All right. So what else went wrong? Offensive issues. It was really on the offensive side of the ball. And again, so goes the offensive line. So went the offense. So went Alabama. The offensive issues are downstream from the offensive line woes. They were 11th in total offense. They were 10th in scoring offense, 15th in the SEC in rushing offense. The Tide, 15th in the SEC in rushing offense, 104 yards a game. Are you kidding me? You know, that can't happen again. That has got to stop. And I think hopefully Kalen DeBoer will get that figured out this year. Wide receiver drop issues. Ryan Williams, he had the worst drop rate in the country last year. Can't happen.
Yeah.
Got to get better this year. And dropping games, you just can't. FSU. Again, that sort of thing is also what needs to be cleaned up for the Tide. We can't be losing to the Vanderbilts of the world. We can't be losing to FSU. FSU ended up being terrible last year. And Thomas Castellanos talked all that trash all offseason. And you let that guy beat you. Come on, man.
I know. We were laughing at him, saying, what is this guy doing? Don't you know any better? And he knew better than us, turns out.
He knew better, man. He took it to the Tide and then didn't do jack the rest of the year and got benched.
Yeah, got benched.
So, that can't happen. You know, that has got to stop. Those are the type of games that Nick Saban never lost. And as soon as the Tide walked off the bus, pretty much, they're going to win this game. Well, that hadn't totally been the case in the DeBoer era, and that's got to change.
No.
So that's really – and that's the Alabama mystique fading. Mentioned that a little bit earlier. It's kind of what it feels like. Like, Alabama's still very good, but they aren't dominant like they were in the Nick Saban years. And that was the Alabama mystique. They walk off that bus, you look across the field at those guys, and you're like, holy smokes, I do not want to play that defensive line. I don't want to play that offensive line. That linebacker looks like an avatar, and he could take my head off right now. And that running back looks like an avatar, and he's about to go for 200 on us. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore with Alabama. That mystique is fading a little bit, so you feel like you got to get that back a little bit in 26. So what do I feel like they need in 26 to get back to that, bring back that Tide mystique? I think you need a deep playoff run. I think you got to get back to the semifinals. If you really want to feel good as an Alabama fan, at least to the semifinals we got to get back to. And I know I just talked about this roster. It's going to be tough. A lot of newness, a lot of talent. Lost a lot of production. Got to replace a lot of production. Got a lot of newness. So we'll see. But I think you need a deep playoff run for Tide fans to feel excited again and really feel like DeBoer's got a handle on this thing. Yeah. Offensive line's got to get better. Rushing attack has got to improve. QB play has to be solid. You got Austin Mack or Keelan Russell. We'll see. A lot of talent. Got to be good. And I think you need an SEC title game appearance. I think you got to get back to the SEC title game again in order for them to maintain their biscuit rating, potentially move up. So, okay, quickly, I'll go through their schedule as to why I think the Tide can do it and get back following that playbook for how they can be better and what they need in 2026. So here is the Alabama schedule brought to you by ChatGPT, making these graphics for us in a pinch. So look at the schedule
They
here.
look good.
They do look good. Yeah, it's pretty impressive, honestly. I used up an entire town's water to make this graphic, but I guess it was worth it. So looking down the schedule here, I really started to get a little bit more bullish when I was looking at it, because I think it's pretty favorable actually for the Tide.
Oh, that is manageable. Just looking
It's
down,
manageable.
I mean,
yeah,
you get, I mean, look, we can just look at the biscuit ratings, but, you know, in terms of SEC, you get Kentucky, Carolina, Mississippi State, Vandy, and Auburn.
Yeah.
That's pretty favorable. You don't get wait, where? They don't play LSU this year? No way.
Oh, they do on November 7th, right before Vandy at LSU. So ChatGPT, I took up a whole town's water to take out the LSU game. They play LSU because that's one of their 3 rivals. So forgive me, I will fix that next week. But November 7th, they've got LSU and they have to go to Baton Rouge.
Well, that makes it look a little bit harder then. But still, there's a lot of losable games on there. But again, yeah, I would say in terms of an SEC slate, you know, no Oklahoma, no Texas, no Ole Miss. So 3 playoff teams from the SEC last year you do not get. And you get the other 2 in Georgia and A&M. But it's going to be a gauntlet either way. But I do think, you know, most teams would take that draw if presented with it. You know, would you take this schedule versus somebody else's? Most are probably going to take this one.
I would too. And I would take LSU off just like I did here.
Yeah, right.
But
GPT killing us.
Yeah. So, but even with LSU in there, I mean, you got to go back-to-back weeks. Okay. So you got to go at LSU, at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's got teeth. Look, Vanderbilt's got their own kind of newness and changeover from the Diego Pavia era. But that's not a pushover, you know, it's not a pushover anymore for sure. But you just look down the schedule and you think favored or toss up, you put probably between 9 and 11 games in that category. And you got to be feeling pretty good if you're in the favored or toss-up category in 9 to 11 of those games, with potentially being a dog in like 1 to 2.
Yeah.
You also get some of your most difficult games at home. You got Georgia at home. You got Texas A&M at home. Auburn, you get them at home this year. Even South Carolina. South Carolina is tough to go on the road and play in Williams-Brice.
Mm-hmm.
So getting them at home is nice. You got to go to Tennessee. That's tough. And you got to go to LSU. That's tough. So you got really 2 really tough road games, but hey, most years in the SEC, you'll take that. Just, you know, I'm not saying these other road games aren't difficult. They are, but to the level of, you know, an LSU and a Tennessee or a Texas A&M or a Georgia or even a South Carolina because of the environment, or Auburn because of the environment, you get a lot. You really have a favorable schedule this year for the Tide, which is nice considering how much roster turnover I just talked about. So, all right, to finish this up, to put a bow here on the Alabama Biscuit Index, which they got a rating of 10 this year heading into 2026. How can they earn some extra biscuits? How can they get up to 11, which is what we had them at 2 years ago in the first biscuit rating for the Kalen DeBoer area? They were at 11, and they've since dropped down now to a 10. How can they get back to 11? How can they get up to a 12? 12, win a national title. You win a national title, I think you've gotten back to a 12. Other than that, you just have to show me some staying power. We can't go back to 9 wins. You know, sure as heck can't have an 8-5 season. So, you know, 8-4 season, 8-5 with a bowl win or a bowl loss. Can't do that. Got to show me some staying power. Show me that you're, you know, knocking on the door. You're either in the SEC title game, you're making the playoff. Got to make the playoff, and I think you got to make a little bit of a deeper run in order to get that 11th biscuit. We are okay. We are elite. 2 years in a row, we've won 11 games. 2 years in a row, we've made the playoff. 2 years in a row, we've been right on the cusp of winning the SEC title again. Show me that. You can earn some extra biscuits. I think it's going to be difficult with this roster. I really do. Like, again, a lot of talent on this roster, lost a lot of production, and it's a lot of young guys on this roster that are filling those slots to try to make up for that production. And at the key position of quarterback, a lot of talent. Could be a Comet, could be a Johnny Manziel or something situation, could be great, could be incredible. Keelan Russell has a lot of potential. We've seen a lot from him already. Spring game looks great. All the talk out of Tuscaloosa is he's awesome. We got to see it on the field. And so we'll see. The schedule sets up favorably. The roster, I don't know.
It's unknown. A lot of unknowns. And I think, just it's hard a little bit because DeBoer has shown, I think he's a good coach, and he's shown, of course he's shown. I mean, he's been to the title with Washington. He won a playoff game last year. Like, he has shown a lot, but he's still just like almost unlike Drink in a way where I'm just kind of used to, at this point, it's like Missouri, Drink, I kind of feel like I know what they're going to be.
Yep.
I'm not really sure I know what Bama is going to be. I think they're going to be good, but like you said, how good? Is this a 9-3? Or is this a 11-win team? And I just am not. I don't know how to wrap my head around it right now because DeBoer in Tuscaloosa. Again, it's not been bad, but it hasn't. It just I don't know quite what to expect from them yet at that top end, right? Because again, we're talking about like I know they're not going to win 5-6 games, of course, but to get back to the standard. I just don't know if I can expect that or not. I expect 9 wins at a minimum. But, any more than that, I'm very unsure at this point.
Well, and in some case that's understandable because it's also can be kind of Jekyll and Hyde within the season thus far. Yeah, it's kind of you're seeing his first year and they're number one in the country, and then they go to Vanderbilt and they lose, and then it's kind of a little bit downhill from there. But then so you lose to Vanderbilt, but then you go and trounce LSU on the road 42-13.
Yeah,
and you finish that season 9-4. So you lose to Tennessee that year. So and then you come into this year. And you lose to FSU, but then you beat Georgia again in the regular season.
Yeah.
And even in season, there's been a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde where it's tough to really nail down Kalen DeBoer yet. And like you said, be like, this is what I know what I'm getting from this Alabama team, under Kalen DeBoer and what I'm getting from this program. Whereas with Missouri right now, you feel pretty confident in what you're getting from Eli Drinkwitz.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
All right.
Well, good stuff. That is the long-winded Missouri and Alabama Biscuit indices. Indices.
Yes. These are going to be long-winded. We're going to try and keep these a little bit under what we did tonight, but they're fun to go through, and we love doing these deep dives. So, again, your Alabama Crimson Tide for this season going into 2026, we gave them 10 Bossmans, 10 biscuits on the Biscuit Index rating scale, trademark TM. All right, let's move here quickly. We'll finish out. We do not have a Leach Coach of the Week this week again. It wasn't too much that came out of Big 12 Media Days yet that I thought was interesting enough to put on the Leach Coach of the Week that was worthy of the Leach Coach of the Week. So we will have a Leach Coach of the Week as soon as we can, as soon as we get some good content again. And so, good question here, Mike. I will tell you.
It's Texas and Oklahoma, the Red River shootout.
That's going to be a lot of fun. Hammer has Texas. Congratulations. He's super happy about that. And I have the Oklahoma Sooners. So we will get into that next week. That's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. We put it that way, obviously, for a reason. Red River rivalry. We'll get it done all in one show, talking all the way through what's going on.
I am the unbiased expert on Texas. So
yes, yeah, as you've been known since we started this.
Yeah, I am the authority on the Longhorns.
Yeah, So, all right, biscuit of the week. You put this one together, man. We do this every single week. If you guys are new to Biscuits and SEC, we've got over 100 of you guys watching us right now, so I'm sure there are plenty who are new here. So thank you guys for watching. And we do a biscuit of the week every week, just like we do a Leach Coach of the week every week. We love to feature biscuits on the show. We're Biscuits and SEC. Love Southern culture, love Southern food. And so each week we feature a biscuit. If you would like to be featured, let us know. You can tag us on social media with a picture, send us a DM at Biscuits and SEC across all platforms, or you can shoot us an email, contact at Biscuits and SEC to be featured. We love featuring y'all's biscuits. We have featured many in the past, many from Captain Biscuit, Rick Wilmarth, and many from others as well. So Hammer had one this week, though, he wanted to share with us. So Hammer, take it away. Please share with the class.
Absolutely. So this comes from a couple weeks ago. Our local, everybody was back in town at our parents' house out in Crozet, Virginia. And I don't remember if it was you or our little brother, Chuck Biscuit, who picked these biscuits up. But the Exxon station down the road, better known as the Brownsville Market, has darn good breakfast sandwiches, mainly biscuits. So this is a sausage, egg, and cheese with some coffee and a little bit of hot sauce from the Brownsville Market, and it's phenomenal. It's probably the breakfast biscuit that I eat the most often, at least currently where I'm residing, because it's like 5 minutes down the road. So if I ever just have a quick craving, that's where I go, and they deliver every time. So yeah, the Brownsville Market, if you're ever in the Western Virginia area in Crozet, they serve it all. They got fried chicken at lunch, burgers, it's a whole buffet basically inside this Exxon station. So hit up the Brownsville Market. It's good stuff.
Oh, it is. We have featured the Brownsville Market a couple times on here. I think we featured it maybe a couple weeks ago, a month or two ago. Maybe it might have been a month ago. It might have been right when I got back. But yeah, I love their biscuits. It is just a good country Southern biscuit. You can get, I think I've had a chicken biscuit there before, I believe. So you can get chicken biscuit.
Definitely you can. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, chicken biscuit, sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit, bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit. Their biscuits are great. They're on the hot plate, but they don't dry out, which is impressive. So yeah, I could not. I used to go there in high school, and right in early in college, I had a moving job, student movers, shout out. I used to drop by the Brownsville Market anytime I could, because the office was right down the road from there as well. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. If you were around the Crozet area in Virginia ever driving through, I highly recommend putting in Brownsville Market into the GPS and checking out one of their breakfast biscuits. Yeah, flowers at the pump. That's right, Rick. They do. They like to keep it nice, and the cashiers are super friendly. Good Southern Virginia folks, man. Just good people. So cannot recommend the Brownsville Market enough. All right. That is going to do it for us here at Biscuits and SEC Live. This has been show 93. We thank you guys for joining us. Over 100 of you watching us right now. If you are not signed up for the Morning Biscuits newsletter, it is free to sign up. biscuitsandsec.com/newsletter. Go ahead and sign up. We got it out this morning. Off-season Wednesdays in your inbox, and then during the season, it comes to you twice a week, Mondays and Fridays. We talk all things SEC, keep you up to date on the latest news that's going on around the best country, the greatest country conference. I'm still on America 250, the greatest conference in the country, the SEC. We also talk plenty about what's going on around college football and around college athletics as well. So be sure to sign up for that right there. We are presented to you by the Steer Agency for all your digital marketing needs. Be sure to check them out, thesteeragency.com. And we are part of the After Dark Network. Our friend Mike Huseman, he does Off-Season After Dark at Offseason AD on social media. And then he puts that out typically on Tuesdays in the morning. Does a great job, covers all sorts of college football, not just the SEC. goes in depth with folks who cover each team. So be sure to give him a follow, check him out. We are on SEC After Dark every Thursday, 9 Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. Tomorrow we will be on SEC After Dark as we are each week. Be sure to check that out. Our friend Jake Thomas, he does Bama After Dark at Bama After Dark too. He will be rejuvenating that here as the season gets closer and as he gets a little bit more time on his hands. But he does a fantastic job covering the Tide. So be sure to check him out there. Our friend Mike Huseman, Offseason After Dark right there. You can follow him at Huseman49. Cal Bear episode up next on Offseason After Dark. Let's go.
Algorithm. Watch out. JTT, man. Baby. JT Tui up a low. So
yeah. Whatever. He's good. He's
ATT.
Good. Yep. So that'll be a fun episode. Be sure to go ahead and check that one out. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. It is good to be with you guys. For Hammer, I am Boss Man. We will see you guys tomorrow night on SEC After Dark and right back here, same time, same place next week for Biscuits and SEC Live. Thank you so much. God bless America.
God bless America.
End stream.